Who's our leader tonight?
I think I am. And uh,
It should be good.
yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And I think we're recording now. And Maria, would you like to start us off by reading the collect?
Sure. Almighty and everlasting God, you are always more ready to hear than we to pray, and to give more than we either desire or deserve. Pour upon us the abundance of your mercy, forgiving us those things of which our conscience is afraid, and giving us those good things for which we are not worthy to ask, except through the merits and mediation of Jesus Christ, our Savior, who lives and reigns with you and the Holy Spirit, one God, forever and ever. Amen.
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 Well, folks, there was a sentence in there, or a part of a sentence that struck me. Pour upon us the abundance of your mercy, forgiving us those things of which our conscience is afraid, and giving us those good things for which we are not worthy to ask. Anybody want to chew on those for us?
Well, one time I believe this was worded a little bit differently. I think this is a newer version of a Cranmer collect. I've heard it slightly differently for many years, and I can't quite put my finger on it, but I do think that this translation or this version is more helpful, of which our conscience is afraid. In the old prayer book, it was worded differently. I just can't put my finger on it, and I don't have an old prayer book. I've only got the new one. Anyway, I loved it, and I guess I do have things of which my conscience is afraid.
I think we probably all do.
Yeah.
Do any of you guys think that we get good things for which we are not worthy to ask? Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
I think Mother Minerva has the best facial expression. I'll ask you to elaborate.
So one of the things that is very ingrained in me growing up with my family and knowing there were little resources is I wouldn't ask my parents for things normally because I didn't want them to say no, because I didn't want to put that burden on them that they would have to say no. And I just think that that's something that kind of has recognizing that it's been many, many years and where I don't have to worry about, is there enough? But it's kind of in there, right? And I think there's something about, again, is this something that needs to be spent on?
Yeah.
So I do remember I was talking to my husband about something, and he said something to me that I'll always remember, is that you're worth it. And I just was like, because he just understood that there is that in the back of my head, even though I may not say it out loud, that's in the back of my head. Is this something that I deserve to have, or
You'd like
others need it, or
Would you like to invite someone, Mother Minerva?
Sure. Alicia?
Oh, what am I being called on? I'm sorry. On comment on
To
that?
comment on the collect.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I read up until the point that you said, and then it says, and given us those good things for which we are not worthy to ask. But I don't, maybe I don't understand it, but I always ask for anything and everything. And then I'm thankful for everything. I read somewhere that somebody said they were thankful for bacon because they love bacon so much. But yeah, I'm always thankful, even if I find a parking space right away and close to the door of the place that I'm going to. And I'm just always thanking God, or and asking Him again and again. And I'll say, well, it's me again, and I need, would you please help me, or help my friend here that's not well or whatever. So maybe I don't understand it, but
I think you're doing just fine, Alicia. Would you like to invite someone?
yes. Let me see who else is on there. Has
You've
no.
got Anne or Maria.
Oh, Anne, yes, Anne.
Thank you, Alicia. Okay. So, Henry, I think it's wonderful that you pointed out that this specific part of the collect, and that part in there about forgiving us for those things of which our conscience is afraid. And I certainly understand what that means, but I wanted to ask something a little bit further. And Mother Minerva, I would love for your input on this as well. But when we ask for forgiveness for something that we have done, I believe that God forgives me and that He throws those sins to the bottom of the sea. What is your opinion on, what is your thought on that? Should we continuously go over and over the sins that we believe have been forgiven? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I think that the challenge for us is that we don't forgive ourselves.
Correct.
And we don't trust in God's mercy always.
And do you believe that once you have confessed that sin to Him and been truly, truly sorry for it, that He has put that sin away?
Yeah, that's why I think that God's mercy is God's, one of God. What does it say? The Almighty, you show your power last week, that you show your mighty power through your mercy, right? That is how He shows up for us, is in that mercy. And absolutely, there is this idea of grudge, that you cultivate. That's just not, that doesn't seem to fit in who God is.
Right.
I think that there is the sense of repentance and turning around and making amends, and all of those things that are important for real reconciliation, right?
Yes.
For if it's things done or left undone, right, to remedy and to rectify and to make amends with those who we have left, we have failed, or whatever that may be, right? Whatever that separation is that we have created within us and God, and us and our neighbor. Then that's done, right?
Right.
Then that's done. The thing about, I think that the challenge is that we come back to it and come back to it not because God hasn't forgiven, it's because we haven't let it go.
Exactly. It's like ripping a Band-Aid off of a wound just over and over again. I heard a really interesting discussion about that. That's why I was glad that was there, and I could ask you about it and anyone else as well. But because it seems like it really holds a lot of people back from being able to move forward in God's love and joy. So, and I will invite Maria. Thank you, Mother Minerva.
I was focusing on you are always more ready to hear than we to pray, and to give more than we either desire or deserve.
Yes.
I try to, sometimes I'm like, am I just too rigid in my ways? Because, I want to pray first thing in the morning, and, and it shouldn't be like that. Just pray whenever you want, and then I fall back and, and I ask, give me a sign, help me, what am I doing? And sometimes I'm thinking, is he ever thinking, again? You're asking again. So, but that, it's, at least for myself, he probably, I pray every day, but sometimes I feel I skimp on my prayers, I don't know if that's the right word, but that really caught my attention when I read it.
There is something about the discipline, Maria. There's something about the discipline, and different for different people. They have different rhythms and different ways that they develop this prayerful life, right? A prayerful life, and for some it's in the morning. Sometimes it's for the people in the evening. My mother has this practice with my nephew that before he goes to sleep, he calls her, and they pray together. And it's always through, it's not. I think it probably started when he was little in person, but now he would get his mom's phone, and now he has his own phone, and so he'll call. So there's this beautiful practice that they've developed together, right? And so maybe and you could not understand what he says. He says it so fast. I know what he says because I remember when he was little, he would say the same thing. So it's the same thing, but just in like rapid speed, please God for, and he lists everybody's name in like 3 seconds, right? And so somebody said, well, that's not prayer. It's just like rote, right? But it isn't. It's this practice that they've developed. And so maybe some days we have a shorter conversation with God. Sometimes it may be a little stifled, maybe we'll be a little groggy, but that check-in, whether it's in the morning or when we're driving and saying thank you for the parking lot, or it's in whatever rhythm, I think it serves us, and just also know that those rhythms change with seasons. And so what may have worked really well in one part of your life, getting up early and meditating for 20 minutes, may not be what you find life-giving in another part of your life, and vice versa, right? So yeah.
Speaking, Mike mentioned Cranmer. The traditional confession of sin goes a lot, dovetails nicely with what Mother Minerva was saying. The remembrance of them is grievous unto us. The burden of them is intolerable. And that's us. That's us. And I am quite familiar with that part of the traditional confession because I have found it relevant to my own life and my own perception of that. And maybe I need to get beyond. Easier said than done. Anything more on the collect?
Oh, I have one thing.
Good.
Okay. How about praying for the same thing over and over again, like every day, about someone maybe who is young and ill, and you pray for them to be healed or not to have pain, and you pray, although that God is listening to you, and but that person hasn't been healed. And I just pray this every day. And maybe Mother Minerva could help out there.
I think that yes, praying for the same thing over and over. I mean, world peace or your children's safety or whatever that may be, or your friends, healing. I don't think there's anything wrong with praying for the same thing over and over. And I think it's also, it's that so that it's part of it helps us, right, be in connection, and lift up what's really important. It says, hand it over to God, right? So you every day. Sometimes we have to hand over the same thing over to remind ourselves, I'm handing it over to you, God. I'm handing it over to you, God. I'm handing it over to you. And then the thing that the difference between healing and health, right? So healing may not what the person may be getting is, the healing may not necessarily mean that the illness goes away or the disease goes away, but maybe there's a peace in their heart.
Yes.
Being able to see the beauty around them despite their illness, right? And so there are different ways that healing can come in ways that do not necessarily equate for the headache is gone or the, fill in the blank, it has disappeared. And that prayer that you're lifting up for your friend is going to serve your friend. We just don't know, necessarily how.
Very good.
Thank you. Very good.
That's hard, right? Because sometimes we really want a particular outcome, right? I want my hair to stop turning gray, right? Right, but maybe it's that I learned to love my gray hair.
Yeah, or go visit Miss Clara.
What about no hair?
Or,
I used to be a babe.
Minerva, you could always alternate naming the gray hairs for your husband and your children.
Yeah, that's it.
Michael, could you give us your best Charlton Heston voice and read the Exodus reading for us?
Why, yes, God.
Thank you.
Then God spoke all these words. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt. Out of the house of slavery, you shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an idol, whether in the form of anything that is in heaven above, or that is on earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not make wrongful use of the name of the Lord your God, for the Lord will not acquit anyone who misuses his name. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. For 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. Honor your father and your mother so that your days may be long in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or male or female slave, or ox, or donkey, or anything belongs to your neighbor. When all the people witnessed the thunder and lightning, the sound of the trumpet, and the mountain smoking, they were afraid and trembled and stood at a distance and said to Moses, You speak to us, and we will listen, but do not let God speak to us, or we will die. Moses said to the people, Do not be afraid, for God has come only to test you and to put the fear of him upon you so that you do not sin.
Well read.
I like this translation.
I do. I guess the question I've got for you is looking at this list of 10 commandments, are there any that you initially misunderstood, but that you think that now you have a better understanding of what their meaning is? And Anne, I'm going to call on you first.
Okay.
And you're muted.
Thank you, Henry. So I think, I don't think, as a younger person, much younger person, it was you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. So literally, I thought, okay, that means I'm not going to lie about my neighbor and tell false stories about them. But as I've gotten older, I also know now that that also entails gossip. And so that was one that was very eye-opening for me as I grew into adulthood. And I will invite Alicia.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this part not introduces, but states the part of the Ten Commandments. And then it was, I don't know, to me, it made me smile when the people told Moses, you speak to us and we will listen. And because they got scared of God speaking and all the things that went with it. And well, he put the fear of God in them. And that's the way I felt. Yeah, and it made me actually go look up the 10 Commandments. I looked them up on the computer because when we were younger, we had to memorize them and then name them without reading in the right order. But I had forgotten about it. I just remember the first one. But yes, I like that part. And say, you speak to us. Don't let God speak to us, but he's scary. But I remember when we were young, they would always say, be careful, don't pick up something that doesn't belong to you and things like that, or else. And then you knew what or else would be that the devil would get you.
Or God would.
Or God would. Yeah, he'd get after you.
Alicia, would you like to invite someone?
Yes. I'll invite Mike. Or did he already speak?
Or, oh, I've already had I've already had a chance.
Okay. I think Mother Minerva.
I like that it's two things. One is I like that God reminds them why God is trustworthy and is worth being in relationship with him or in covenant with him, with God. And that is, I am the Lord your God that take you out of the land of slavery, that did all these things. Therefore, right, I've done all these things. I've earned the right to be your God, right? I've delivered for you. And here's now how I want you to, how a faithful people will live together. Here are the ways that I think you need to be in order for you to have a safe, healthy, loving community. Here are the ground rules for you. I like that. And I remember a long time ago, I went to the service, and the preacher talked about returned them from don'ts to do's, which was really interesting. So instead of saying do not steal, something like share, um, do not covet, be happy with what you have, just kind of like turn them into do's, which is really interesting to go through that exercise of, instead of it just being these negatives, but really it's about how do we love one another, how do we care for one another, how do we live in a community where people have what they need, people are grateful for what they have. So yeah, and then this other, I just recently, I think I've shared with you the Sabbath, how central it's also part of recognizing that we don't, that all that we have is God's. And so working 7 days or 8 days or 9 days a week, we try to make more days out of the week, right, than they really are, and more time that they exist for more work. And that really goes counter to the kind of life that God wants for us, especially after the relationship began from getting us out of slavery. So why would we go back and enslave ourselves to the grind of working all the time? Just, Maria, what do you think?
That's the one for myself, that I struggle the most with. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. Because I'll be honest, when I just relax, veg out, by the end of that day, I feel so guilty about not having done something. And I don't know why. I had that idea, like, man, I was at home, I could have done A, B, C, D, but instead I read, and so that's the one that I struggle the most with, is the, not trying to not feel guilty about.
Well, maybe you can think about it in terms, Maria, is God told me to. God told me not to do the laundry today.
Mm-hmm.
God told me not to cook today.
Mm-hmm.
God told me not to go and pick weeds or whatever the list that you had. Get rid of what was it? Oh, when you're the air conditioner, remember?
Yeah.
You had to get all that stuff done. God told me to leave the boxes alone.
So yeah, and I guess growing up, I was not really aware of it. I mean, I had chores and stuff, but as I've gotten older, I know it's like I really do badly on that one. So
you're not alone, sister. You're not alone. I think that's the one that gets more, especially in this country, right?
Mm-hmm. Henry, did you want
to? Yeah. First of all, I want to go back to what Anne said. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. I too initially thought it was lying. Now, I think about perjured testimony in civil cases and how that can last for generations. But also, Anne was on target when she talked about gossip. And Sandy had an aunt who would go to the Baptist church in Perryville, Kentucky every Sunday. So she would get the current crop of village gossip. And, I have spoken or listened to St. John's congregants who get tired of the gossip that they hear and try not to participate in it because they don't think that it's very good. The other one that I misunderstood, I think, from day one until relatively recently, like the last 15, 20 years, is honor your father and your mother. I think that is the elderly parents that you should still be honoring because they need to be made to feel relevant because they still are relevant. And Mother Minerva, the story of your nephew praying with his grandmother is a wonderful example of that continued relevance. And I think I've told you this about my mom. Her grandfather was a Civil War vet who fought at Antietam, and uh, he died in 1929 when she was 6 years old. And so when she's a college freshman, and the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. There are a lot of women at mom's college, and she said many of them had Southern accents who that dinner, that evening in the banquet hall were going, war, in their best Scarlett O'Hara accents. And mom had remembered her grandfather's wisdom, and she goes, oh boy, we're going to get it now. So there's a lot to be said for hanging out with people who are, or at least 70 years and 10. So, who would like to read the psalm?
So, Henry, just want to point out that Anne has her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I beg your pardon, Anne.
That's okay. So it's just a couple of things. So when we were talking about prayer, Maria, when you were talking about that, every night before bed, for all of my life, I have always said, now I lay me down to sleep. Okay. And I have always followed that up with 7 names because I come from such a very small family. So I have always prayed for my parents, my 2 sets of grandparents, and my brother. God forgive me. So, but it is just a habit. And I have done that no matter where I have been in my life. But every night that I say that prayer, and then of course now I have, and I add other things and people to it. But that just made me think of that, and I just thought I would share that with y'all. It's a children's prayer, but those 7 people, even though only one of them is still with me, I still pray for them every night. And then you were talking about Sundays. So I can remember growing up here in Texas that when there were blue laws, for those of you, okay, and so you couldn't buy certain things on Sunday, and stores were closed and all of that. And I still can remember I had moved away for a little bit and came back, and somebody said, let's go to the mall. And it was a Sunday. And I was like, the mall's not open on Sunday. Well, yes, it is open on Sunday. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I really, in my heart, I believe that changed the culture of American society. I really do. I think it's one of the founding things that did that. It took, I know people have to work. I know people have to earn a living, but oh my goodness, I really see that as being where church started to decline for all religions. Not, I mean, of course for Christian religions, but for religions in general, that it just took that away because it just takes so much to try to make it in this world. And so I wish that we could go back to that, where Sundays things were closed. I know doctors and the emergency things have to be there. And I'm eternally grateful to Walgreens for being open on a Christmas, because I nearly cut my thumb off one Christmas. And I was grateful they were open. I say that tongue in cheek, but I sincerely meant that. But I just really think that Sundays should be for rest. And so, Maria, what I was going to finish up with is that since my mom passed, I have really tried to make a concerted effort to make Sundays not a work day for me. And it's hard. It is hard. And I know exactly where you're coming from, but with time, it has gotten easier to make that day where I'm not just exhausted by the time I, return to my regular life on Mondays. That's all. I just wanted to share that with you. And I would love to read the psalm.
And thank you so much, Anne. And thank you for your sharp eyes, Mother Minerva.
So I'm going to read Psalm 19. And for Mike, the The Latin here, again, I don't speak Latin, but it does mean, and the heavens declare. So here we go. The
Oh,
heavens,
yeah.
the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament shows his handiwork. One day tells its tale to another, and one night imparts knowledge to another. Although they have no words or language, and their voices are not heard, their sound has gone out into all lands, and their message to the ends of the world. In the deep has he set a pavilion for the sun. It comes forth like a bridegroom out of his chamber. It rejoices like a champion to run its course. It goes forth from the uttermost edge of the heavens and runs about to the end of it again. Nothing is hidden from its burning heat. The law of the Lord is perfect and revives the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure and gives wisdom to the innocent. The statutes of the Lord are just and rejoice the heart. The commandment of the Lord is clear and gives light to the eyes. The fear of the Lord is clean and endures forever. The judgments of the Lord are true and righteous altogether. More to be desired are they than gold, more than much fine gold, sweeter far than honey in the comb. By them also is your servant enlightened, and in keeping them there is great reward. Who can tell how often he offends? Cleanse me from my secret faults. Above all, keep your servant from presumptuous sins. Let them not get dominion over me. Then shall I be whole and sound and innocent of a great offense. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my strength and my redeemer.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Comments, anyone?
Amen. What a fabulous poem. What did you ask us, Henry?
Comments, anyone?
Oh, comment.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm ready with comments. Yeah.
Oh, good. Don't be shy, Mike.
This church I went to in Meyerland in Houston called St. Thomas. There's a lot to be regretted in that, but one thing the minister did when he had a pulpit where he climbed up into it and you could look down over the congregation, and he would begin before he said his sermon, he would say this, let the words of my mouth and the meditation. And I thought it was beautiful, but I didn't know where it came from. Comes from this wonderful, wonderful poem. The allusion to the sun as similar to a Greek myth in which Phaeton pulls the sun across the heavens daily, and it then sinks down and goes around under the earth, comes back the next day. But this is a great poem. One last comment. Caeli in erranta. I don't know what. Well, both of those Latin words have an echo in the French language. If I'm pronouncing Caeli right, in French it became ciel, C-I-E-L. I don't know what the other one is. Can't find an analog in French. And I will now ask Alicia comment on what this poem means to her.
Well, it's a beautiful psalm in that it has a lot of praise and worship. And it just goes on and on and on. Like if it It goes forth from the uttermost edge of the heavens and runs about to the end of it again. Nothing is hidden from its burning heat. It's just some beautiful words. And the law of the law of the Lord is perfect and revives the soul. More praise. The testimony of the Lord is sure and gives wisdom to the innocent. It's just a beautiful psalm. I liked it.
Yeah.
Who would you like to invite, Alicia?
Oh, okay. I'll ask Henry.
Okay. My favorite is the last line, 14. Let the words of my mouth and meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my strength, my Redeemer. I utter that prayer fairly regularly, several times a week. Especially when I'm going to do any public speaking or opinions or anything like that, because it's best to have the big guy in your corner. And I will pass it to Maria.
I have to be honest, a lot of when Anne was reading it, I don't really understand it. I didn't understand it. There were some parts that I like, okay, that makes sense to me, but the majority of it did not. Verses 7, 8, and 9, I could follow and understand, but the rest I was like not really sure where what it means or where it was going. But at the very end, I was reminded of Reverend Anne because that's how she would start her sermons, and that's the first thing that popped to my head when you said those words. But a lot of it, I was like, I don't really know what this is saying to me or saying. Period. So, Mother Minerva.
I'm looking at it. And I think that first part of it, Maria, is all about. I'm looking at. I think Alicia, you said there's so much praise, right? The heavens declare the glory of the Lord, and the firmament shows His handiwork. Is this just recognition of how glorious God is and how beautiful God's creation is, right? I mean, so I think that's kind of kicks it off. What did you say was the Latin? The heavens declare?
And yes, ma'am. That's correct.
It's the heavens declare, right? So that's the Latin version. So it's just kind of this whole declaration of the heavens saying, and I just think that it's just that second verse is just one day tells its tale to another, and one night imparts knowledge to the other. I just have this image of like the days like, hey, let me tell you about what I'm doing. And then at night, like, let me tell you what I learned, right? Like I just kind of these two personifications of day and night, right? And so it's just, I think the author's just kind of enjoying talking about how all of creation can rejoice in God's creation, even things that are, well, they don't really rejoice, but maybe they do, right? Like, oh, like what if they do, right? Like the birds and so I just think that just kind of that play at the beginning of that, how beautiful that is when everybody's just looking around and the sun is excited, the day, the night is excited, right? Everything is just really looking and just giving God it's due, right? So, thanking God for what all God does.
Thank you.
Mike, I think your hand is up, and then we go back to Anne.
Okay. This is not the only place where nature is personified as relating to God. There's another one where heaven and earth are praising you. O Lord Most High. That's been turned into a song that we sing. But anyway, it is just a really wonderful, admirable. I love hearing it. I love whoever read it. I think that was and the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament shows his handiwork. It's wonderful. That's all I had to say.
And
Yes, here I am. So at the end, where it says my Redeemer. So I know Mother Minerva listens to contemporary Christian music. I do a lot. There is a singer named Nicole C. Mullins, and she sings a song called My Redeemer. And if you haven't ever heard that song, it is on YouTube. It is really, really beautiful. And towards the end of the song, she says, I know my Redeemer lives. I spoke with him this morning. And me just saying it just gives me chills, but to hear her sing it is even just so beautiful and really applies to this psalm. And I wonder now if she had this psalm in mind. But at any rate, if you're not familiar with her and you have a little time and you want to, you should check out Nicole C. Mullins, My Redeemer.
thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
I notice that it's 7:51 and we still have the epistle and gospel. Do you want to go to the epistle or do you want to go to the gospel? Or
I vote for the gospel.
Okay, let's do the gospel. And
I'm not the only
Mother
person here.
Minerva, would you like to practice for Sunday? And
Deacon Victoria is going to do it, but I wouldn't mind. I don't mind.
okay, cool.
Oh,
Thank you.
wait. Where did it go? Hold on. I just lost it. Hold on. Let me just get to it.
I'm glad Deacon Vic's coming back.
Yeah, she was there on Sunday, which was really great. All right. The Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus said, "Listen to another parable. There was a landowner who planted a vineyard, put a fence around it, dug a wine press in it, and built a watchtower. Then he leased it to tenants and went to another country. When the harvest time had come, he sent his slaves to the tenants to collect his produce. But the tenants seized the slave and beat one, killed another, and stoned another. Again, he sent other slaves, more than the first, and they treated them in the same way. Finally, he sent his son to them, saying, 'They will respect my son.' But when the tenants saw the son, they said to themselves, 'This is the heir. Come, let us kill him and get his inheritance.' So they seized him, threw him out of the vineyard, and killed him. Now, when the owner of the vineyard comes, what will he do to those tenants?" They said to him, "He will put those wretches to a miserable death and lease the vineyard to another tenant who will give him the produce at the harvest time." Jesus said to them, "Have you never read in the scriptures, the stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone? This was the Lord's doing, and it's amazing in our eyes. Therefore, I tell you, the kingdom of God will be taken away from you and given to a people that produces the fruits of the kingdom. The one who falls on the stone will be broken to pieces, and it will crush anyone on whom it falls." When the chief priests and the Pharisees heard his parables, they realized that he was speaking about them. They wanted to arrest him, but they feared the crowds because they regarded him as a prophet.
Thank you so much. Folks, in my studies, the scripture about the cornerstone, that's Psalm 118, verses 22 through 23, I think. And the parable that he mentioned is also in as a spin-off of the song of the unfruitful vineyard, which is in the 5th chapter of Isaiah, verses 1 through 7. Any other comments about the gospel? We can go over a few minutes if you want.
Well, I was going to add that it's a continuation of a message that we heard last Sunday about tax collectors and prostitutes. Now, I had to chuckle at inclusion of prostitutes, but sinful people needed Jesus and his message, and they listened to it. The same things is here. The self-satisfied of the Jewish elite are the people who are in charge of the vineyard and kill off people who come from the owner, that's God. And it's just self-satisfied people versus humble and spiritually seeking people, which includes tax collectors. I guess people that work for the IRS and prostitutes. Oh, and rabbis and Pharisees. Got them. That's my thought. Just
anybody else?
Excuse me. Go ahead.
I think also, I was trying to confirm, but I think it's also in Isaiah, the idea of the cornerstone.
Oh, okay.
Definitely in that song, because I remember reading in that song, but I think it's also in Isaiah. I think the other thing just to keep in mind is, as I've been reminded, location. This is where Jesus is already in Jerusalem, right? He's not en route, he's at the end. And so the confrontations while he's in Jerusalem and calling out the what he sees as things that are not in right order and calling them out, right? And particularly around rules and just the religious leadership that has made things very difficult for people to live in that community, right? And so I think that's something that's important. Also, I just think that I'm not sure, like the parable, in some ways, it's quite funny that you think that if you see the owner of the person who you're renting from, that you think that if you kill that person, you are going to then inherit the land. Like, who does that, right? Like, clearly that's just not even within the realm of possibility, right? So it's kind of just how outrageous the people who were in charge, how they just thought they could just literally get away with murder, right? And not be held to account, right? And not have to change their ways. So I think that's something that is being called out, is do not let your position and your collar or whatever it is, your standing, think that you don't have to bear good fruits, right? That you are called to bear good fruits. Every single one of us, regardless of title, position, standing, we're all held to that same standard. And maybe even, the more you have, the more you're responsible for.
We get to pick the kind of fruit that we become, like a kumquat or an orange or an apple, or just asking. Anybody else have anything? Well, once again, folks, this has been another fruitful, wonderful hour. Yes. And I get to see your smiling faces, and once again, you prove that the little gray cells between your ears are working. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Henry.
And
thank you for leading.
and thanks all of you for who you are and what you do. And I do not take any of you for granted.
Oh, sweet.
Okay, I will not be with you Sunday. I will be in Colorado.
Okay,
Safe
well,
travels, Mike.
Yes, safe
Rick,
travels.
yeah,
Thank you very much.
and wear a bear bell if you need to,
All
because
right.
I think Susan might be able to outrun you, Mike.
She can now. I've got both hips replaced. I can't run anymore.
Okay,
No more hips.
okay.
Okay, folks. I'm signing
And
out.
now, but I do think we need to be sent off in prayer.
Yes.
I do too.
So, Mother Minerva, can you do your usual outstanding job and ask people for whom and what shall we pray and etc.
Yeah, so you just asked them. Why don't we go ahead and let's do it? Mike's first? Mike say travels.
I'll ask for prayers for my brother-in-law who's having some nasal surgery tomorrow.
Oh.
What's his name, Maria?
Eric.
Who else or what else?
I have. Oh, go ahead, Henry.
Just rain. We're supposed to have a 70 to 90% chance, and let's have it actually come through.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Alicia?
Earlier, I said that I keep praying the same prayer over and over, and that's a prayer for my daughter. She's not well. And
remind me of her name, Alicia.
Laurie, Laurie.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else or anything else we can lift up today? We want to lift up tonight. For those of you who are listening after we gather, I hope you also have your prayers. We lift them up as well. Gracious God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this evening, in particular, this conversation, the opportunity to sit together and read together and study together and share with one another our lives and how the sacred texts have really made a difference in our lives, and how we are able now to see a little bit more clearly. And we ask, Lord, that you continue to give us the wisdom that we need to understand your text and the courage to live them out. And we lift up, especially today, Lord, Susan and Mike's travels to Colorado. May they have a wonderful trip. Get them there safe and sound and bring them back home safe to our back as well. You know the needs of Eric, and you know the doctors and the medical staff who will be caring for him. We ask that the surgery goes well, and that the recovery is goes well too. And Lord, Lori has been not well for a while, and Alicia has been worried about her. We ask you to take this prayer and to both bring comfort to Alicia, knowing that Lori is in your hands, and to bring healing to Lori. There are people around us who have sick and friends and family members, loved ones who we've loved for a long time and love deeply. You know who they are and you know their needs. Let them know that they are not alone in their prayers for their loved ones, but their community, their faith community, prays with them. And this earth of yours and this creation of yours, we are sorry for what we're not taking good care of it. But we ask you to help us with some rain to bring about some relief to the streams and to the lakes and to the plants and the birds and all of us that rely on that heavenly liquid, your rain. We ask you to provide for us what we need. We ask all of this in your Son's name. Amen.
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 Amen. Wonderful prayer.
Well, everyone.
See you
Take
Sunday.
care.
All right, friends. You have a great
Bye-bye.
one.
You
Bye.
too. Bye, everyone.